Running commentary. We are exploring listening to albums. It is a lost art form. We took an hour out of our day. We switched off the phones. We switched off the computers. We did not answer the door. We sat down and we listened to the artist's vision and concept. Desperate Bicycles. Remorse Code. Well, you know I didn't choose it. It's that bloody producer again with one of those punk numbers. I'm like, oh Christ, here we go again. Give it a break already. So, didn't know anything about this band, and I'm sure none of you do. But Remorse Code is the only studio album by the English band Desperate Bicycle. Here's a surprise. I just said it was recommended for review by our producer. The album was released in early 1980 and reached number 10 on the UK independent charts. The band were fiercely independent and made up of Danny Wigley on vocals, Nicky Stevens on keyboards, Mel Oxer on drums, Paul Leclerc on guitar, and Roger Stevens on bass. That was to start with anyway. That lineup changed several times before they got to this album, but that's how they started out. Desperate Bicycles took their name from a section in J.B. Priestley's 1930 novel, Angel Pavement. The band had formed as a punk band in 1977. They performed live at the Rock Against Racism benefit in 1978, together with Sham 69. Smash Hits magazine reviewed this album and said that it was awful, and I do mean awful. Red Star was responsible for that review. For those of you that used to read Smash Hits, Red Star's like a blast from the past of like the early Smash Hits days. Stephen Malkmus didn't agree. Who is Stephen Malkmus? He was the lead singer and guitarist for indie rock band Pavement. And Stephen cited the album in his list of 10 records that changed my life for Spin Magazine. And I wanted to put that in there just to give it a little balance and try and sort of see, an album like this, how did it even come that we're sitting here reviewing the thing? Remorse Code was recorded in Spacewood Studios in Cambridge, UK. Same as the Tubeway Army, by the way. So, to our producer, what you might want to do is go and check out every album made on Spacewood Studios, because there's a chance that you're going to find some other gems there for me to review. I think the other surprise was that Dave Stewart and Barbara Gaskin, who scored a number one hit in 1981 in the UK with It's My Party, regularly recorded at this studio. So let's talk about the accurate lineup for this recording. Danny Wigley is still on vocals. The original drummer and guitarist had left the band after the group's first single, Smokescreen. The drummer had been replaced with Dave Papworth, who was a 14-year-old. Papworth didn't make it to this recording. Jeff Titley is the drummer on this recording. Roger Stevens is off the bass. Nicky Stevens takes up the bass, as well as the keyboard. I couldn't quite figure out who was doing what on this album. Dan Electro Driscoll is now on guitar. Paul Leclerc had legged it after the first single. I'm taking notes. The album's playing in the background and it isn't bothering me, but I wouldn't want to be out on the street with it on my headphones. When I used to sell or trade records in Notting Hill Record Exchange, this was exactly the kind of album that would be playing as I hunted for missing UK top 10s for my collection. Let's go over the songs. So number one is I Am 9, which is... My favourite part about I Am 9 is when it ends, and I don't mean that like nastily. I mean that there's a really good production of the harmonica at the end of the track that I really liked. I thought I Am 9 I like the way it ends. Walking the talking channel, walking the talking channel. We get it. It's it's interesting. I don't really have any notes on track 2. I think it's okay. A Can of Lemonade. I mean, these are very sort of punk sentiments, but kind of a can of lemonade to me is like a little bit of glamour, a little bit too glamorous for a punk band. R. White's, there's a burping sound in this song, and there's a sound of the fizzy elixir going into a glass, which I'm sure if you're recording as a young band is very exciting stuff, but now just seems a little strange. Pretty Little Analyze. Acting. So this stands out head and shoulders above the rest so far. This song is good. This is actually a song where you're like, bit more work here, bit more promotion. This could have sat very respectably with the songs of the time and have got some recognition. I think, that fiercely independent thing, as we all know, can go one way or another. It's great that you're fiercely independent, and fiercely independent generally means broke and not really succeeding. So it's somebody's birthday today sounds like madness at the beginning. Sarcasm, are you a victim? Sarcasm was a key word on Pink Floyd's Another Brick in the Wall, so I think probably it was kind of a shame that they chose sarcasm as a song. Another Brick in the Wall's just been a hit for like 4 weeks at the end of 79. Who cares that Desperate Bicycles have a song called Sarcasm? Trendy feelings. It's an illness to be trendy. I kind of agree with that sentiment. I like some of the sentiments here. It is an illness to be trendy. I think it is. Hipsters take note. It's an illness. It's not something to be proud of. Natural history. I don't want to be a fossil. I can hear this has got something going for it. It's there. There's elements here. They've got the nuts and bolts. You know what it is? They've got all of the ingredients laid out on the table. They just haven't really put them together correctly. I've done that before. I've made tracks where all the ingredients are out on the table and I haven't put them correctly together. So I'm not really hating on this band. I don't dislike this, and I like it better than Tubeway Army because I know what Gary Newman goes on to do. It's interesting, isn't it? When someone gives you the early work of somebody and they go on to do something better, you're like, I hate that early work. But if you have an album by somebody and this is what you know of them, you're like, that's what they do, and I kind of don't mind it. I mean, I really didn't mind it. I listened to this 3 times. Blasting Radio. It's not a bad song. It makes me think of the Regents. Greasy hairs in a comb, a pile of dirty washing. I like the guitar on this track. I liked it. It was. You feel kind of bad for them. It's like this. What it made me think of was thinking of this band who changed lineups. Obviously, Danny Wigley's there's a couple of committed members to this band, and everyone else is kind of moving around. They recorded some demos in New Cross, which is, again, close to where I live. I know Carter the Unstoppable, Sex Machine had recorded tracks here as well. New Cross is this, really sort of alternative area. And it just makes you think, doesn't it? With a band like this, you sort of think to yourself, what might have been? And it's sort of... I don't really know how my producer came up with this album to review. I don't know what his reference point was for it. I don't know where it came from, how it came into his line of sight. Because, let's face it, unless he'd brought it to my attention, there's probably 0% chance that I would have found this independently. On track 9, Natural History, a touch more production could have really transformed this song positively. It's interesting that someone upstairs was blasting their radio upstairs as this final track played. And just to show willing, because I want to try and get better at just not dismissing stuff and saying, oh, I don't like it, so I'm not going to listen to it. Well, I can't say that I didn't not like this album, because that wouldn't be true. But what I did was to listen. I saw that this band had had a John Peel session in 1978, which was recorded on July the 4th of 1978 for broadcast on the 10th of July. And I got to tell you, the energy on the Peel session immediately struck me as better musicianship and a stronger sense of purpose in the earlier work. It's interesting. I think this band garnered a lot of attention for this Remorse Code album based on the earlier work. So I feel like this album was probably more popular as a result of earlier work. So in awarding the final mark to Desperate Bicycles, Remorse Code, which I really don't hate. I'm kind of glad that I crossed paths with this album, because it sort of, it was sat under what was happening, and I think it was quite earnest, and I think they were quite sincere, and, you know, I think they can be proud of themselves. The Running Commentary album review, final mark for Desperate Bicycles, Remorse Code, 65%.